Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to the second session of Target Prelims 2023 initiative, and this is the second session of Indian economy. Now before we start with the questions in the second session, here's a very important announcement. As all of you must know now, in the Target Prelims 2023 initiative, totally 22 sessions of all the important subjects will be conducted. Starting from yesterday, that is April 24th, till May 15th, these are the 22 sessions which will be conducted every day live on our YouTube channel sharply from 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Yesterday was the first session, today is the second session, and remaining 20 sessions are these. Now do not worry about this. Do not by heart the sessions, or let's say the list of the sessions. The schedule along with the PPT PDF will be available in the description. Download it. Now before I start, there's a very famous statement in the Indian economy, or let's say generally in the economics, given by a very important economist. There are no free lunches in the economy. There are no free lunches. In the same way, the initiative that we have started to assist you to crack the civil services examination is not free. Now some of you will panic. Please don't. When I say it's not free, we are not expecting anything else except the like button, or you hitting the like button, providing your valuable comments in the session below, or let's say the comment section, and subscribing to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS YouTube channel. So this is what we expect in the form of payment. There are no free lunches in the economy. Please remember that. With this caveat, let me start. Question number 24. Yesterday we have solved question number 23 or till the end of 23. Today let's start with 24. Now, which of the following will affect yields of G securities? Very often in the newspapers would have come across the term yields. And many of you would be still confused as to what is a yield, what is a coupon, what is the interest, how all of them are connected, etc., etc., etc. Now, let me simplify this. Even if you don't understand it, please do not worry. Do not panic. UPSC will not ask you the meaning of it, but if you know the connection between all of them, more than sufficient. Now, whenever you purchase a debt instrument, what is a debt instrument? Debt instrument essentially means one person, or let's say one party, is lending money, another person, or let's say another party, is borrowing money. Simple. There is a transfer of money for a certain time period, which has to be repaid. And the instrument that is used for borrowing like this, for taking money like this, it's called as a debt instrument. The best example of a debt instrument in the market is bond. Concept of bond. The bonds can be issued by the government. For example, Government of India, state governments issue bonds. And the bonds can also be issued by the private sector, corporate. That is second point. Now third very important point, whenever the bonds are issued, let's say I issue a bond, I will take certain amount of money from you, which also means I will have to pay certain interest. But in the case of bond, please remember, it is called as coupon. It is called as coupon rate. But please understand this, coupon rate, let's say is 8%, and the amount of money that you have given is 100 rupees, which means upon 100 rupees, you will get how much? 8 rupees. So coupon rate is how much? 8%. But here is a very important point. Please understand this. The bonds are tradable in the market. The bonds are tradable. Tradable means what? You can purchase, you can sell the bonds. Now, when you trade something, when you start selling or buying something, can I simply say that market prices will change? I hope you understand this. Market prices will change. The price of the bond at one point of time could be 100. Another point of time could be 102 rupees. Another point of time could be, let's say, 97 rupees. So simply remember, market price can change. And imagine you will pay, right, let's say 95 rupees and purchase one bond, and on this bond the coupon rate is 8%. Now this is very important. The coupon rate is given on the face value, not on the market price. Please remember this. It is given on the face value of the bond. What is the face value? Face value in the simple terms, what is printed on the bond. Face value of the bond is, let's say, 100 rupees. So how much you have invested? You have invested 95, and the coupon amount that you will get is 8% of 100, that is 8 rupees. So your investment is 95, you are earning 8 rupees. Now can I simply say your actual interest rate, how much interest rate you are earning will be more than 8%. You can use the calculator later, don't worry, 8 divided by 95 will be more than 8%. Let's say 8.5%. But on the other hand, the bond prices can also go above 100 rupees. They can go up from 95 to 98, 99 rupees, 102 rupees, 105 rupees. Let's say the bond market price is 105 rupees. And when the price is 105, your friend will purchase the bond. He will get how much? Again, 8% of 100, that is 8 rupees. So your friend has purchased a bond. Still, the friend will earn a coupon of 8 rupees. So now use the calculator, not literally, just imagine this. Use the calculator, you will realize that the coupon rate, or let's say the yield rate, has actually gone down. Yield rate is below 8% now. So that's a basic idea. That's a basic idea. You do not have to understand all of this. Even if you have not understood, nothing wrong with that. All of this is very technical. Most of you will search book A, book B, book C. Realize that none of this is actually given. Why? All of this is not required for GS paper 3. Then what is required? Simple relation. Market price is inversely related to yield rate. Please by heart this. Market price is inversely related to the yield rate. If the market price goes up, yield rate will go down. If the market prices go down, yield rate will go up. Remember this relation. Now let's start. Which of the following will affect yields of G securities? Monetary policy and fiscal policy. Right? Imagine, understand this. Imagine your RBI governor. Time is 7:37 and you are the RBI governor. Congratulations, by the way. So you are the RBI governor. You will change the interest rates in the market. Now when you change the interest rates in the market, don't you think because of this, certain impact will be felt on G securities or not? Sir, how? How it will be felt? Simple idea. If the interest rate in the market, that is, let's say repo rate is increased from 6% to 7%, what is repo rate? One party is lending, another party is borrowing. So interest rates in the market is going up. Will you expect more yield rate on the bond or not? Of course, yes. So the market prices will change to adjust for the yield rate in the market. So first one, correct. Second one is fiscal policy. Now much higher promotion to all of you. You are not just the RBI governor now. Congratulations, you are the prime minister. Hypothetically, you are the prime minister. You will make policy changes. You will spend money. You will borrow money. You will change the taxes, etc., etc. Now because of that, will the money supply change or not? I hope you understand. Because of that, money supply will change or not? Of course, yes. If you borrow more money, will the yield rate go up or not? Of course, yes. So yield rate will be affected? Yes. Right? So monetary policy, RBI, fiscal policy, Government of India. Third one, expectations of slowdown or recession. If there is an expectation of a slowdown or a recession, right, don't you think it is very risky to invest in securities now? Will you not expect better returns from the securities because you are taking a higher risk? So the yield rates will automatically be affected. So third one is also correct. Now I have taken this question. All of these are there in the newspapers. All the three are there in the newspapers. So first is correct, second is correct, as well as third is correct. Right option for question number 24 will be option D, 1, 2 and 3. Question number 25 now. Consider the following regarding retail direct gilt scheme. Now many of you will try to tell me, sir, there is a spelling mistake. You have typed GILT. No, it is not GILT. You should type it GUILT. My dear, you're talking about a different guild. I am mentioning about a different guild. When you don't read, you will have a different guild altogether. But I'm not talking about that guild. This is a gilt-edged security, Retail Direct Gilt Scheme. In short, RDG Scheme. Now, what is this RDG Scheme? What is this concept of Retail Direct Gilt Scheme? Now, concept is simple here. Let me explain this. You are a retail investor. Retail investor means what? An individual who is going to invest in the market. You are allowed to purchase G securities, by the way. Remember this. I'm not asking you anything. I'm telling you, in fact. You are allowed to purchase G securities. You can invest and purchase G securities. But what is the process? Right? Generally, it has been found that in case of India, participation of retail investors in the bond market is very, very low. Simple. Participation of retail investors, that is you, me, your friend, your competitor, your neighbor, etc. If all of us are investing in the market, we are called as retail investors. So the retail investor participation in the market is found to be very, very low, especially in the bond market. Now, you want to increase the participation of retail investors in the bond market, especially in the government bond market. How is that possible? RBI, to simplify the process to promote retail investor participation, has introduced a scheme by the name of Retail Direct Gilt Scheme, RDG Scheme. Under this, what will happen? Follow this carefully. Here is a retail investor. Retail investor should have a bank account. Now, in addition to this, this retail investor will be asked to open an account by the name of Retail Direct Gilt Account. Direct Gilt Account with Reserve Bank of India. RBI. Reserve Bank of India. RBI. Now, once you open this Retail Direct Gilt Account, you can purchase the G securities from the market. Right? Through this Retail Direct Gilt Account, you can purchase the G securities from the market. And if you purchase, from where the money will go now? The money will be transferred from this particular bank account through the RDG, the payment will be done. And whatever G securities are there, it will be credited into your account. Now, this has been done in order to promote retail sector or retail investor participation. Right? And this is basically the concept of Retail Direct Gilt Scheme. Now, let's start. It is available for the retail and institutional investors. No. The target is retail investors. Look at the name also. Look at the name also, you will realize it. The target is retail investors. It will provide access to primary issuance of G securities. Second statement is correct, by the way. Now, many of you will be confused with the term primary and secondary. You'll simply say, sir, I read 2 books. I read 3 books. I searched in Google also. But I'm not getting the meaning of the term primary and secondary. Let me simplify this to you. Whenever you look at the term primary market, right, you will come across primary market and secondary market. Whenever you look at the term primary market, it is a new issue market. A new issue market. What is the meaning of new issue market? Government will issue G securities. Is the logic okay? Government will issue G securities, which means this G security until now was not there in the market. It is a new issue. I hope you understand this. Can I give you one more example? And this is connected to current affairs again. IPO, initial public offering. What happens in an IPO? In IPO, the company is issuing the shares to the market for the first time. To the market, that is to the investors, to the public for the first time. Can I call this issue also as a new issue? So whenever you come across new issues of the securities, that market is called as primary market. Now imagine you have purchased the shares of the company. Whatever the company is, don't worry. You might have purchased Paytm shares company and regretting it. Or you could have purchased G securities of the government. Now you want to trade these securities. You want to trade. Trade means you are selling these securities. You are not the issuer. You are simply the holder of securities now. The company has issued, you have purchased. Government has issued, you have purchased. Right? So the argument is simple. You have purchased it in the primary market, you want to sell it. That is called as secondary market. Best example of a secondary market is Bombay Stock Exchange. Bombay Stock Exchange, National Stock Exchange, BSE and NSE. Right? So basically in the secondary market, the securities which are already there in the market, they are traded. Primary market, it's a new issue market. Now come back to this. It will provide access to primary issuance of the G securities. Of course, yes. Right? I hope you understand the statement now. Of course, yes. Under this, the investors can purchase the state and central government securities. Yes, they can purchase the government securities of the center as well as the state. So 2 and 3 are correct. First one is wrong. Right option for the question number 25 will be option C here. Option C is the right one. Let me go to question number 26 now. Consider the following statements regarding one nation, one ombudsman. One nation, one ombudsman. What is the concept of one nation, one ombudsman? This was announced, right, let's say 1.5 years ago by Reserve Bank of India. One nation, one ombudsman, it's an initiative or let's say a measure undertaken by Reserve Bank of India where until now there were 3 different legislations. I repeat, there were 3 different laws or let's say there were 3 different documents to take care of grievance redressal. Sir, what do you mean by grievance redressal here? I'll give a very simple example. You go to a bank, you have money in your bank account. It's not that you don't have any money. You have money in your bank account. You want to withdraw the money. But the bank manager simply says, no, I will not allow you to withdraw the money. You have a grievance against the bank manager. You have a complaint against the manager. So there is a mechanism, a grievance redressal mechanism, famously referred to as a bank ombudsman. Bank ombudsman. Now, until very recently, for banking sector, there was one ombudsman. For digital payments, grievance redressal against digital payments, there was one more ombudsman. For NBFCs, there was one more ombudsman. I hope you understand this. For banking related complaints, one. For NBFC, second, one more. And digital payments, there was one more, right, let's say the process that was prescribed, one more officer appointed as ombudsman. RBI said, let's not have 3 ombudsmans. Let's merge all these and have only one ombudsman. That is the concept of one nation, one ombudsman. This has been introduced to resolve the customer complaints in the stock market. No. The banking sector, digital payments transactions, as well as NBFCs. So first one is wrong. Second one, it is based on one portal, one email and one address. What is the meaning of it? Rather than having different websites, portals to register complaint, rather than having multiple emails to send a complaint, rather than having multiple numbers to register a complaint, now we will have only one portal, one email and one address. That's basically the idea of one nation, one ombudsman. Now just to ask you, just to test how much you have read, who do you think is the grievance redressal, right? Let's say the point in the stock market. Think of this, right? Where do you actually go to register a complaint against something that has happened in the stock market? Of course, this is not correct. Stock market is not one nation, one ombudsman. Who is the authority in the other side? In the stock market, it is SEBI. It is a SEBI. So right now, you'll have to find out which of the statements are correct. Second statement is correct here. Most of you have given the right answer, SEBI, great. Question number 27. Consider the following statements regarding trickle down theory. Concept of trickle down theory. Now, what is this concept of a trickle down theory? Sir, why are you discussing trickle down theory in the current affairs class? I'll connect it to current affairs, don't worry. All of you have heard of what is happening in UK? Britain. Main constituent of UK is Britain. In the last couple of years, multiple prime ministers, or there have been multiple prime ministers in UK. Forget about what has been the impact of Brexit. Definitely, yes, there is an economic crisis that is taking place in the United Kingdom. Now, one of the prime ministers, Elizabeth Truss, proposed a tax proposal or came out with a mini budget, wherein the central theme of that mini budget was trickle down. And it became so unfavorable, or let's say the criticism was so high. The finance minister was let off, the prime minister was forced to step down, and a new prime minister has been appointed. That is Mr. Rishi Sunak. Again, whether his policies are good, anyway better than the previous prime minister, that's a different issue altogether. But let's connect it now. The main idea that was proposed by the previous prime minister was the idea of a trickle down theory. Now, what does the trickle down theory say? Trickle down theory simply says that if you provide the tax benefit to the rich, if you provide the tax benefit to the rich or the tax exemption to the rich, the benefits will not stop at the rich itself. The benefits will start flowing down to other people in the economy, other parts of the economy. I'll repeat it again. What does the trickle down theory say? It simply says that, right, the tax breaks which are given, the tax breaks which are provided will not only benefit the people who will get the tax break, the benefits will actually flow down to other sections of the economy. That is basically the idea for trickle down. And in fact, sir, is there any connection to India? When you have read planning, I hope you have read about it. When you read planning, in the initial phases of the plans, right, first 5-year plan, second 5-year plan, etc., India actually believed in the trickle down theory. I will repeat it. Even in the initial phases of the planning, right, India actually believed that there will be a trickle down effect that is observed. Now, many of you will ask me, sir, how is that possible? You are giving a tax benefit to the rich people. How is that other sections of the economy will benefit from this? Let me give you a simple flowchart. Simple. Imagine you are a billionaire. Now you are a billionaire. Earlier you were an RBI governor. Then you became the prime minister. Now you are a billionaire. And the government will provide to you. The government will provide to you a huge amount of a tax break. Tax break in the sense, the amount of taxes they will collect from you will be reduced abruptly to a very, very low level. Now, because the taxes that you're paying to the government is very, very low, what the government expects is investments in the market will increase. Simple idea. Investments in the market will increase. And when you invest in the market, let's say you will set up a new manufacturing facility because you're a billionaire. That's your, right, let's say that's your main occupation. So you'll set up a new manufacturing facility. When you invest and set up a manufacturing facility, you tell me what will happen to employment. What will happen to employment? What will happen to production? What will happen to supply, etc. So you will realize that all of these, right, will start increasing. So thereby providing benefit, look at the employment, thereby providing benefit to other sections in the economy as well. So that's a basic idea of a trickle down theory. But does it happen? No. There's a huge dispute. One classes of economists have disproved the idea of a trickle down theory. This is a basic idea. Consider the following statements regarding trickle down theory. It is a theory focusing on supply side economics. You tell me, is it focusing on the supply side or not? Is it focusing on the concept of supply side or not? That is, investment will increase, production will increase, employment will increase, etc. Yes. As per this theory, the benefits flow down to others in the economy as well. To other sections of the economy, the benefits will start flowing down. And because the benefits will start flowing down, that's a precise reason they use the term trickle down. Trickle down means what? Basically flowing down like this. So as per this theory, the benefits flow down to others in the economy, right? Yes, second statement is also correct. So 1 and 2 are correct. Right option will be option C, both 1 and 2. Right? Question number 27, C is the right option. Question number 28. Consider the following statements regarding inverted yield curve. Inverted yield curve. And if you check, and if you're reading the newspapers, you will realize that we have actually observed inverted yield curve very recently in India. It has actually happened in India. Generally, it used to happen in USA, in other developed countries, and very recently, inverted yield curve has taken place even in India. Now, right, statement 1, it represents a situation wherein the yield rates on the short-term G securities is lower than the long-term G securities. I'll come to this. Statement 1 is wrong. But anyways, let me explain what is the idea of a inverted yield curve. Concept of an inverted yield curve. What generally happens is, imagine you have invested in one government bond, or let's say government security of short duration, let's say 2 years. And you also have invested in one more government security of long duration. One is short duration, second one is long duration. Now, simple question to all of you. Where do you think you should expect more returns? Should you expect more returns, that is, let's say, a higher yield or a coupon rate on a short-term bond or a long-term bond? Think logically. You should expect a higher returns in the short-term or long-term? You should expect it on long-term. You should expect it on long-term, and that's correct, by the way. Why? Because you're investing in a long-term bond, let's say 10-year bond, you're taking higher risk. You do not know what is going to be the inflation in the next 10 years. You do not know, right, what kind of volatility will be there in the next 10 years, etc. You're taking a higher risk. Now, because you're taking a higher risk, you expect a higher yield, a higher coupon on a long-term bond. But what if I were to say that in the market, because of certain situations, because of certain events, the yield rate on the long-term bond is, I will write it, yield rate on the long-term bond is lower than the yield rate of a short-term bond. Just now we have established that you should get higher yield rate on a long-term bond. But what if because of certain situations, I'll tell you, certain situations, what if yield rate on the long-term bond is smaller than yield rate on a short-term bond? This is called as inverted yield curve. This is basically referred to as inverted yield curve. That is basically, if you represent the yield rates of both short-term bonds and long-term bonds, you will see that the short-term bonds yield rate is higher than the long-term bonds. Because of this situation, it is called as inverted yield curve. Now, some of you will ask me, sir, how is that possible? How is that possible that logically when you say yield rate on long-term bond, because I'm taking a higher risk, is correct. But now you are saying yield rate can become smaller, can be lower than a short-term yield rate or yield rate on a short-term bond. How is that possible? Imagine you're expecting a recession to take place. Think of this. Imagine you're expecting a recession to take place. Now forget about everything else. Let me ask you a very simple question. In the next, let's say 1 year, or let's say next 6 months, next 3 months, you expect a recession to take place. Now the government will come with a bond to sell to you, or anybody else wants to sell a bond to you which is a short term. You tell me, will you demand a higher yield rate or not? Simple idea. I hope you understand this. If there is a possibility of recession, you think that something wrong is going to happen in the economy, and somebody wants to offer you a short-term bond, what will you do? Will you accept a lower yield rate on it? No, you will say, I want higher yield rate. Give me more and more higher yield rate. Right? So as a result of this, you could experience a situation wherein yield rate on a short-term bond is greater than yield rate on a long-term bond. And generally, not always, please remember this, generally the the phenomenon is that if there is an inverted yield curve, it is an indicator of recession. I'll repeat it again. Generally, the accepted phenomenon is that if there is an inverted yield curve, there could be recession. Not always. Whenever there has been a yield inversion, always there has not been any recession. For example, when you read newspapers or when you have read newspapers in the last 3 months, have you not come across concerns raised regarding whether there will be recession in the next couple of months or not? Of course, you must have come across it. There has been a lot of concerns or fears about recession in the coming months. Now, any guarantee of recession? Think of it. Any guarantee? Anybody who says, yes, there will be recession in the next month? Absolutely no. Concerns are there. So there has been a yield inversion, right, even in India, even in USA because of this. Now, have a look at this now. It represents a situation wherein the yield rates on short-term G securities is lower than the long-term G securities? No. Right, absolutely no, exactly opposite. This usually, not always, is used as an indicator of recession. Second statement is correct. Right option for the question will be option B, only 2 is correct. Next, question number 29. Consider the following regarding DICGC. Sir, why? Why should we read DICGC? Let me connect it to current affairs. All of you have heard about SVB, Silicon Valley Bank issue. There was a great crisis in the banking sector, a very big crisis in the banking sector very recently in USA. SVB collapsed. After SVB collapsing, there was one more bank collapsing in the European market. Couple of more banks in the USA collapsed. Right? So whenever you are discussing a bank collapse like this, automatically the role of bank deposit insurance will be important. Now in case of India, please remember this, there is an act, Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation Act of 1961. I'll repeat it. Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation Act of 1961. Under this particular Act of 1961, there is one statutory body. Of course, some of you will try to correct me later. Right? Some of you will try to correct me, sir, DICGC Act was passed in 1961, but the authority was set up later, etc., etc. Don't get too much technical, simply understand the logic here. Within this ambit of the Act, there is one authority by the name of DICGC, Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation. Now, it is this Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation which will provide insurance, to the bank deposits in India. Right, for example, you keep a bank deposit. I have kept a bank deposit. Right, your parents would have kept FD in the bank, etc. So which authority will provide the insurance to these bank deposits? It is the DICGC, Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation. Right now the insurance amount is up to 5 lakh rupees. Right, up to 5 lakh rupees. Point number 2. Point number 3, DICGC is under the ownership. It's a subsidiary of Reserve Bank of India, RBI. It's a subsidiary of Reserve Bank of India. Point number 4, the banks, right, or that, let's say anybody who gets a banking license, I repeat, anybody who gets a banking license automatically will come under the coverage of Deposit Insurance Corporation. I'll repeat it again, please remember this. You do not have to separately apply. You get a bank license, you will come under the coverage of Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation. Now the banks will have to make a premium payment. Insurance premium payment has to be paid by the banks. How much is the insurance premium right now? It is a 12 paise. It is a 12 paise for every 100 rupees. For every 100 rupees, it is 12 paise. Then these are the very, very important points. Please remember this. Now, come back to the question. They provide insurance coverage for the deposits with SCB, UCB and PSES, etc. How many think first statement is correct? No. First statement is not correct. Right? Why? Primary agriculture credit societies. Please remember this. Primary agriculture credit societies. Is there a term bank here? Think of it. Is there a term bank? All I'm trying to tell you is PSES is not a bank. It's a credit society. It's not a bank. Now, if it is a credit society, will the DICGC provide deposit insurance to that? Of course, no. Right? So, the deposits with the PSES do not get the coverage of the Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation. Second statement. It is a subsidiary of Reserve Bank of India. Factual statement. I've already told you the statement is correct. So, the right option for question number 29 is option B. Only 2 is correct. Now, question number 30. Consider the following regarding Basel III guidelines as implemented by Reserve Bank in India. Please be very, very careful with this statement. Why? Right, here is a very important point. The Basel guidelines are voluntary in nature. I hope you understand my statement. Basel guidelines, whatever member countries are there in the Basel guidelines, these guidelines are voluntary in nature. Voluntary in the sense, if RBI wants to change the provisions, alter the provisions, do not implement certain provisions, RBI is allowed to do that. RBI is allowed to do that. Now, what is the reason we have picked up? Couple of days ago, monetary policy review took place in India. And one of the discussions during that period of time, one of the discussions that took place was, should we activate counter-cyclical buffer? Counter-cyclical capital buffer. There are two terms here, please be very careful. Right? Many of you get confused with both of them. CCB stands for Capital Conservation Buffer. Simple, Capital Conservation Buffer. Second, CCYB. Another way to represent a CCYB is triple CB, Counter-Cyclical Capital Buffer. Counter-Cyclical Capital Buffer. Now, what is the basic idea? In case of India, please remember this. Reserve Bank of India, RBI, is the authority which is having the role in the implementation of Basel guidelines. Point number 1. Basel guidelines. And Basel guidelines very recently have been there in the newspaper multiple times. Can I give you a current affairs connection? How many of you have read regarding additional tier 1 bond? We'll discuss that later, don't worry. Additional tier 1 bond, tier 2 bond, yes bank, that bank, this bank, etc. It was there, please be very careful. Now let's start. RBI has the responsibility of implementing Basel guidelines. And right now, we are in the process of implementing Basel III guidelines. Third round of Basel guidelines, that is Basel III, we are implementing it. Now, under Basel III, one very important provision is to have capital conservation buffer. Has RBI implemented capital conservation buffer? Yes. It is activated, it is implemented by RBI. Capital conservation buffer. What is the meaning of a capital conservation buffer? Under Basel guidelines, the banks will have to maintain certain amount of capital. Sir, why should the banks maintain capital? If the bank is going to incur certain amount of a loss because of market risk, because of operational or systemic risk, or because of the credit risk, there could be losses incurred by the bank. In order to protect the bank, in order to ensure that the bank will continue to keep on operating, certain capital has to be maintained. That is one of the very important provisions under Basel guidelines. That is very famously referred to as CRAR. Right? Credit to risk weighted assets ratio. Credit to risk weighted assets ratio. That is, in the future there could be certain stress, there could be certain losses. You will have to maintain capital. Another name is also there, capital adequacy ratio, CAR, capital adequacy ratio, CAR or CRAR. Now, within this capital requirements, there is one which has been activated in India, capital conservation buffer. As per RBI guidelines, capital conservation buffer is 2.5% of risk-weighted assets, RWA. 2.5% of risk-weighted assets. On the other hand, in addition to capital conservation buffer, there is also counter-cyclical capital buffer. Counter-cyclical, right, conservation buffer. Now, what is this CCCB? Let me explain this. Imagine there is a very good growth rate in the economy. Economy is doing wonderful, which also means the banking sector is issuing a lot of credit. Banking sector is giving more and more loans in the market. Now tell me, if the growth rate is very high, it is increasing, banks are also issuing more and more loans for investment, for consumption, etc. How many of you believe it is going to continue to be very good for Indian economy? Growth rate is very high. Remember this, growth rate is very high. Credit supply in the economy is also very high. Will it continue to exist like this for a perpetuity? Absolutely no. There is a danger of inflation. There is a danger of inflation. Right? Why? If capital availability is very high, interest rates will be very low. Consumption is already very high, means demand is very high. Further you push capital in the market, it will cause inflation. So what does Basel III say? Basel III says, during the periods of high credit growth, look at the statement, during the period of high credit growth, ask the banks, impose the condition on the banks that they should take some of the credit, some of the capital, store it. Do not allow them to issue all of this in the form of loan. Why? There is a danger of inflation. Right? So what you will have to do? Some of this credit, some of this capital, ask them to store away. Look at the term, counter-cyclical capital buffer. Counter-cyclical capital. Right? Against the cycle, ask them to store certain amount of capital. Why? You want to protect the economy. You do not want to overheat. You do not want to give too much of credit. If something happens, you will not be able to recover the credit, etc. So that is the basic idea of counter-cyclical capital buffer. In case of India, capital conservation buffer has been activated. Counter-cyclical capital buffer has not been activated. I will repeat it. In India, capital conservation buffer, CCB, activated. It is there. Banks are supposed to follow it. Counter-cyclical capital buffer, not yet activated. We are yet to give certain numbers to the banks that they are supposed to maintain under CCYB or CCCB. Done. So let me go back to the question here. The Basel III guidelines provide for CCB and CCYB. Provides means there is a provision for both of them. Yes. In case of India, RBI has activated both CCB and CCYB. Statement 2 is wrong. Statement 2 is wrong. First one is correct. There is a provision for both of them. But has RBI activated both of them? No, it has activated only CCB. It hasn't activated CCYB in case of India. So the right option for question number 30 will be option A. Only one is correct. Let me go to question number 31. Following parameters are included in the financially sound and well-managed criteria of RBI regarding UCBs, Urban Cooperative Banks. UCB simply stands for, Urban Cooperative Banks. What are the parameters which have been included under the revamped structure of financially sound and well-managed criteria for classifying UCBs? First and foremost, what is this idea of FSWM? What is the importance of this? Now all of you know that there is a category of cooperative banks in India by the name of urban cooperative banks. I hope you understand this. there is a category of cooperative banks in India, concept of urban cooperative banks. Now, most of the urban cooperative banks in India, these generally have one branch. I hope you understand my statement. Most of these or large number of urban cooperative banks generally end up having one branch. They'll say unit branch. Unit branch means simply one branch. Now you want the urban cooperative banks to open more and more branches. You want them to open more and more branches. But the concern is that these urban cooperative banks are supposed to approach RBI, apply for opening more and more branches. RBI will approve that, then open more branches. That is time consuming process. I hope you understand this. That's a time consuming process. So what the concept RBI has introduced is financially sound and well managed criteria. Financially sound and well managed criteria. Under this, if a particular UCB is categorized as financially sound and well managed, sir, how do you classify which bank is or which UCB is financially sound and well managed? That is where please have a glance through the conditions. Look at the conditions which have been specified by Reserve Bank of India. For example, if you want to classify an UCB as FSWM, then the CRAR, just now we have discussed this, capital adequacy ratio or CRAR should be at least 1 percentage point above minimum CAR applicable to UCB. Net NPAs should not be more than 3%. Net profit for at least 3 years, that is 3 years preceding, should be there, and they should not have any incurred or they should not have incurred any kind of losses. So there are conditions which have been imposed by RBI. If an UCB meets these conditions, it is called as financially sound and well managed UCB. And what is the advantage of it? RBI says, I will liberalize the process. I will make it very easy for you to open the branches now. That is the reason FSWM has been introduced by RBI. Now, following parameters are included in the FSWM criteria of RBI regarding UCB. One is PSL. Did you see PSL in the slide? In the earlier slide, that is in the criteria, Did you see anywhere PSL mentioned? No. Priority sector lending is not a criteria. I hope you understand this. It is not a criteria. PSL is not a criteria. Earlier it was there. Now RBI says, we will not consider this. Maintaining CRR and SLR, it was a criteria. Please have a look at it. CRAR, yes. Core banking solutions, yes. Except one, remaining 3 are criterias, or one of the criterias, some of the criterias which have been prescribed by Reserve Bank of India. So one is wrong. You can use elimination method as well. But again, so 2, 3, 4 are correct. So right option for question number 31 will be option C, 2, 3 and 4. Now, question number 32, more of a political nature, but anyways, can be asked in the prelims. Consider the following statement and choose the right option. There are many NPAs on the balance sheet of the bank, and recognizing that it will not be able to recover some of these loans, the bank moves them out of the balance sheet. This is referred to as loan waiver, loan write-off, prompt corrective action, none of the above. Loan waiver, loan write-off, prompt corrective action, none of the above. Many of you, I'm pretty sure, have a look at this. Many of you, I'm pretty sure, you must have come across this article, or let's say, you must have come across, some of the opposition party political members, etc., criticizing the government. Now, let's not make the discussion political. Let's stick to only economics. The right option for the question is loan write-off. The idea of loan write-off. Now, many of you simply say, sir, what is this loan write-off? It actually looks like we are simply writing off of the loans. No, absolutely no. Please understand the concept here. What do you mean by a loan write-off? Here is a bank. And what do you mean by a balance sheet? Balance sheet is one of the let's say the documents, right, statements which are prepared by every company. One of the documents, one of the financial statements which will be prepared by the companies. Generally, you will write assets and liabilities. Or before somebody comments, sir, liabilities should be on this side, assets should be on this side, I will only write it. Write the assets on the right side and liabilities on the left side. Now, imagine a bank has given a loan. Imagine bank has given a loan. Loan is an asset for the bank. Anybody has a doubt regarding this? Loan is an asset for the bank. So imagine a bank has given a loan of 100 rupee. They have written the loan value on the asset side. But don't you think if this loan becomes an NPA, non-performing asset, if this loan becomes an NPA, non-performing asset, the bank, it doesn't make any sense for the bank to continuously keep on writing this 100 rupee loan on the asset side. Why? Look at the context of the question. Look at the context. The bank has almost made it right abundantly clear now that they are not going to recover money from this. If the bank is not going to make any money out of it, why should you keep on writing it on the side of the asset? What is the sense in that? You are simply inflating the value of the asset. You are simply inflating the value of the balance sheet, but there are no correct value of the asset. So what the bank does is, it will simply write off in the sense, it will take this loan outside the balance sheet. It will not mention, in simple terms, it will not mention this 100 rupee as a loan in the balance sheet. But next point is very important. Next point is very, very important. It doesn't mean that they will not be trying to collect the money from the borrower. When you write off, it doesn't mean that the bank will not try to recollect it. No. The bank has filed a case against you. You're a borrower. The bank will file a case against you. They will continue to fight against the borrower in the NCLT, DRT, etc. But only for the sake of accounting, they will remove it from the asset side. This is called as a loan write-off. It is called as loan write-off. Right? Prompt corrective action, PCA, is basically a measure of Reserve Bank of India. Prompt corrective action, it's one of the policies which has been implemented by Reserve Bank of India, wherein a bank meeting certain criteria. There are different criteria under the prompt corrective action. If a bank meets the criteria, the bank will be classified under the PCA. And once you're classified under PCA, the Reserve Bank of India has mentioned certain restrictions which will be imposed on the bank to improve the financial health of the bank. And on the other side, loan waiver. What's the concept of loan waiver? The loan liability will be shifted. Loan waiver simply means, for example, agriculture loan waivers. Agriculture loan waivers. In case of agriculture loan waivers, if the government announces it, loan will not be repaid by the farmer, but rather the government will repay the loan. The liability of payment will get shifted. That is the concept of loan waiver. But anyways, question number 32. Right option is option B, loan write-off. Write-off of loans. Question number 33. Which of the following may be resulting in banking liquidity deficit? Banking liquidity deficit. Sir, why have you discussed this idea of a banking liquidity deficit? Couple of months ago, for the first time in many years, there was a deficit in the banking liquidity. Now, before explaining the answers here, right, before explaining the points here, let me explain to you the concept of banking liquidity deficit. And before I start, right, what is deficit, what is surplus, what do you mean by banking liquidity? Understand that first. What do you mean by banking liquidity? Banking liquidity simply means how much money is available for the banks to lend. I'll repeat it. Banking liquidity, right, simply means, right, how much money is available for the banks to lend in the market. That is called as banking liquidity. Now, right, again, do not be confused here, right, be very clear. For example, sir, what do you mean by that? Right, let's say you are a bank, I will keep a deposit of 100 rupees with you. Does it mean you have 100 rupees to lend in the market? Think of it and let me know. Right? I will keep a deposit of 100 rupee. Does it mean you have 100 rupee to lend in the market? No. If you say, yes sir, I have 100 rupees to lend in the market, you are wrong. It is no. Why? What about reserve requirements? Yesterday, did we discuss or not? What about reserve requirements? Sum of 100 rupees, you will have to keep it on the side. Remaining amount of money, you will have, right, this amount to lend in the market. That is called as liquidity. Now, generally we expect the liquidity to be surplus in the market. Sir, what do you mean by liquidity to be surplus in the market? Let me explain this. Right, please look at the picture here. RBI will infuse liquidity in the market. RBI will increase the liquidity in the market. RBI can also reduce the liquidity in the market. Correct? Sir, how? If RBI gives a loan under the repo rate, tell me what will happen to liquidity? If RBI gives a loan to a bank under the repo rate, basically liquidity will increase. And if RBI will collect deposits from the bank, if RBI will collect money from the bank, right sir, in what form? Let's say reverse repo. Right, or RBI has SDF now. If RBI will collect liquidity, or let's say collect money from the bank, liquidity will come down. Now have a look at this. Overall banks, please understand this carefully. Next point is important. All the banks in India, imagine, have taken 100 crore rupee loan from the RBI. In whatever form, don't worry. All the banks, right, collectively put together have taken 100 crore from RBI. But on the other hand, RBI from the market has taken 150 crore rupees. From the market, RBI has taken totally 150 crore rupees. Now, is it okay? This is a situation wherein RBI has taken more money out of the system compared to infusing money. I'll repeat the statement again. RBI has infused money, also has taken out the money from the system. RBI has taken more money out compared to how much it has infused. So what is the net liquidity outcome? What has happened to the net liquidity? Net liquidity is minus 50 crore rupees. Any difficulty here? The net liquidity is minus 50 crore. That is, from the banking sector, 50 crore rupees has actually been taken out by RBI. This is called as liquidity deficit. This is referred to as liquidity deficit. Right? This is called as liquidity deficit. Right? On the other side, if RBI pumps more money compared to taking out, then that is called as liquidity surplus. For the last couple of years, there has been liquidity surplus in the market. For the very first time, very recently, there has been liquidity deficit. Now, if there is a liquidity deficit, why there is a deficit? Second, what is the impact of it? Now, let me start with the latter one. If there is a liquidity deficit, you tell me what will happen. Overall in the banking sector, liquidity is lower now. Liquidity has come down. What will happen to deposit interest rates? Deposit interest rates. Please be very careful. Deposit interest rates. That is, the banks are collecting deposits. They will give you interest rate. What do you think will happen to deposit interest rates? Deposit interest rates are expected to increase. I'll repeat it. Deposit interest rates are expected to increase. Why? You should say higher. Some of you are saying, sir, it will become lower. No, my dear. Deposit interest rates will start increasing. Why? The banking sector is experiencing deficit. The banking sector is having lesser liquidity. Now they want to collect more and more money from the people, customers. How they can collect more money from the customers? Offer higher interest rates. Offer higher interest rates. Very simple logical argument here. Deposit interest rates are expected to increase. What about loan interest rates? What about loan interest rates? Loan interest rates are also expected to increase. I hope you understand. Loan interest rates are also expected to increase. Loan interest rates will increase. Some of you are saying decrease. No, it will increase. When there is deficit, money is lesser. Apply basic economic common sense. When the banks have lesser amount of money to lend, will they give the loans at a higher interest rate or lower interest rate? Right? I hope you understand this. When the banks have lesser amount of money to lend, they will give it at a higher interest rate. Right? So loan interest rates are also expected to increase. It is going to have an impact on the growth. Definitely. It is going to hamper growth because the interest rates are going upwards. Right? So these are some of the impacts of banking liquidity deficit. But now the question is why? Why is there a banking liquidity deficit? That is the answer here. Advance tax payments, statement 1 is correct. In fact, this has been found to be one of the reasons why there was a deficit in the banking sector. Sir, how? Imagine you will keep 100 rupees. Imagine you will keep 100 rupees with the bank. The bank, after keeping, let's say, reserves of 10 rupees, will have 90 rupees to lend. But now you will withdraw 30 rupees because you want to pay the taxes. Now, very often, I'm pretty sure you must have read in the newspapers, companies are paying income taxes to government in advance. Celebrities are paying income taxes in advance to the government. GSTs are paid, right, to the government. So whenever advance tax payments are done, right, people will withdraw, companies will withdraw the cash from the bank, cash within the banking sector will come down, liquidity will come down. First one is correct. RBI intervention in the forex market to control rupee depreciation. Very, very technical. Very technical. RBI intervention in the forex market to control rupee depreciation. How is that possible? How it is connected? Let me explain this. Right, so have a look at this. What is happening in this context is rupee is continuously depreciating. And what does it mean? Rupee availability in the market is higher. Can we allow the rupee to continuously depreciate without any control? Think of this. Right, have a look at this. Can we allow rupee to continuously depreciate? No, we can't allow. We cannot do that. We cannot simply sit quiet. RBI cannot do that. So what does RBI do? Tell me, what does RBI do? RBI will start purchasing more and more rupees from the market. RBI will start purchasing more and more rupees from the market. RBI will sell a dollar, purchase more and more rupees. Now you tell me, if RBI will purchase rupees, what will happen to liquidity? I hope you understand. Right, if RBI will purchase these particular rupees from the market, what will happen to liquidity? Liquidity will automatically come down. Right, so second reason. Currency leakage. What do you mean by currency leakage? Please understand, I'll introduce one more concept to you. There's a system called as fractional reserve system. Fractional reserve system, FRS, fractional reserve system. Now, what is this fractional reserve system? Right, generally under the fractional reserve system, people will deposit money. The money will go to the banking sector. Money will get circulated again in the form of credit, in the form of loans. For example, if you are the bank, I will deposit 100 rupees with you. You will not keep quiet with that 100 rupee. You will keep aside certain reserves. Remaining amount, you will lend it in the market. That is basically how the cycle will take place. Because when you lend it in the market, company will take a loan. They will purchase a machine. They will make a payment. Again, the money will come to the bank only. So this is how fractional reserve system will continuously create more and more money, commercial bank money in the market. Now, rather than this happening, imagine I've kept 100 rupee deposit with you. Now I will come to you. I will withdraw 50 rupees out of it. I will not spend it. I will keep it with myself. Simple. I will not spend it. I will keep the money cash with myself. Possible? Of course, yes. It's very much possible. Now, if this 50 rupees kept with me, you tell me how much cash you will have now. How much is your liquidity? Don't you think your liquidity automatically will go down? Now, this amount, right? Please understand this. This amount, when withdrawn from the banking sector, again it doesn't go back to the bank. That is called as currency leakage. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. This amount, when it is withdrawn from the bank, taken from the bank, which doesn't go back to the bank again, it is called as currency leakage. If there is a currency leakage, what will happen to the banking sector liquidity? Banking sector liquidity automatically will go down. Right? So because of these, liquidity will go down. Can it cause a liquidity deficit? Let me know. Can it cause a liquidity deficit or not? Of course, yes. All the three can result into liquidity deficit. Right? So the right option for the question number 33 is option D, 1, 2 and 3. Question number 34 now. Consider the following regarding sovereign green bond. Very, very important. If you ask me, this idea of a green bond, especially sovereign green bond, becomes very relevant. And the beauty of the concept of a sovereign green bond, do not imagine that this is associated only with economics. Can a question be asked on sovereign green bond in case of ecology and environment paper? Can a question on sovereign green bond, can it be asked, right, in any other paper? Of course, yes. Can it be asked in essay? Yes, etc. So argument is simple, concept is important, understand this. Let me start. Sovereign bonds are eligible for SLR. Sovereign bonds are eligible for repo operation. In fact, both the statements are correct. Let me start. The government of India has announced that government will be issuing green bonds. And when you say government is issuing green bonds, this is basically referred to as sovereign. Whenever you come across the term sovereign, sovereign means government. So government issuing a green bond, hence this is called as a sovereign green bond. Point number 1. Point number 2. Sir, if government is issuing a bond, that's a sovereign green bond, can others in the market issue green bonds? Answer is yes. Who else is allowed to issue green bonds? The government owned agencies are allowed to issue. For example, National Highways Authority of India has issued green bonds. International agencies are allowed to issue green bonds. World Bank has issued green bonds. Private sector companies are also allowed to issue green bonds. So sovereign green bond, speciality is simple, it is issued by the government. Point number 1. Point number 2. As per the proposal, RBI has announced that 16,000 crore worth of sovereign green bonds will be issued. And out of 16,000 crores, right, these will be issued in 2 rounds, 8,000 crore rupees each. And out of this 8,000 crore rupee worth of sovereign green bonds already have been issued of 2 tenures. 4,000 crores has a tenure of 5 years. Another 4,000 crores has a tenure of 10 years. 5 and 10 years. So these are the 2 types of or 2 tenure sovereign green bonds worth 4,000 crore each, which have been issued in case of India so far. Third very important point regarding sovereign green bond, the speciality about it is government will dictate for what purposes the money that is raised will be used for. And please remember this, it will be for protection of environment. Simple. All of the money that will be raised will be used for any projects which are associated with conservation, protection, right, related to ecology and environment. Fourth very important point, there is a term called as greenium. Remember this. There's a term called as greenium. That is, the green bonds are issued at premium. I repeat, please remember this. Green bonds are issued at premium. Right? Why are they issued at premium? Logic is simple here. Whenever an issuer, private sector, government, etc., whenever they are issuing green bonds, it is for good cause. It is for the protection of environment. Now, should we impose and collect a higher interest rate from them? It is not fair. I hope you understand the argument here. We should not be collecting more and more interest rate or a higher yield rate from them. It is unfair. Why? They are collecting money for a good cause. They want to protect environment. So generally what happens is, imagine the value of the bond is 100 rupee. I'll repeat it. Value of the bond is 100 rupee and they are offering to you 8% coupon rate. Let's say they are offering to you 8% coupon rate. So when the value of the bond is 100, they will not sell the bond at 100 rupees. Rather, they will sell the bond at 102 rupees, 103 rupees, etc. but guaranteed more than 100 rupees. If the value of the bond is, let's say, 100 rupees, when the issuer will issue it, they will not issue it at 100, they will issue it at more than 100 rupees. The bonds are sold at a premium, and that is the reason the short form green bonds plus premium, greenium. I hope you understand this. Green bond plus are issued at premium, combination of that, it is called as a greenium. So green bonds, remember this, there is a term called as greenium. Fifth very important point. Fifth very important point. These green bonds, right? These particular green bonds, right? Remember this, are eligible for SLR, are eligible for repo operations as well. That is, if you purchase these particular green bonds, let's say you are an institution, these green bonds will be counted as a part of your SLR. I hope you remember the concept of SLR. Yesterday we have discussed. And these are also eligible for repo operations. That is, imagine you are a bank, you want to borrow from RBI, under the repo route, you can use the green bonds. So both the statements are correct. Now let me add one more very important point here. Both SLR as well as the repo operations, eligible for SLR and repo. Sixth very important point, these have been classified as eligible securities under fully accessible route. This is very important, remember this. There is one route that has been introduced by RBI to attract foreign investments, that is called as fully accessible route. These are eligible securities under fully accessible route. That is, foreign investors will not have any limit on investment on these bonds. Apart from this, we have government securities of tenure 5 years, government securities of 10 years, etc., which are also covered under the fully accessible route, wherein foreign investors, there will be no condition on them, there will be no limitation on them to invest in such securities. Done? So these are certain very important points. Please remember them. Please remember, sovereign green bonds are important. So right option for question number 34 will be option C, both 1 and 2. Okay. Now question number 35. But before that, let me make a very important reminder announcement to all of you. This is a part of our initiative to help you in clearing UPSC examination. Right? Specifically right now, target is Civil Services Preliminary examination. Now, like I said, there are no free lunches in the economy. I expect you to make a payment to me in the form of hitting the subscription button, hitting the like button, and hitting even the bell icon, so that whenever these sessions will be made live to you, you will get a notification from the YouTube. And do not forget to comment in the section below. Okay, now let me go to question number 35. Right? Or before that, some of you are asking questions. Any questions? Any questions so far? Why will one pay greenium? My dear, you want to assist these companies to make good to the economy or not? Let me know. And please understand, there's a concept of ESG. There is this idea of a ESG, environment, social governance. ESG is very famous. In fact, the green bonds are covered under the idea of ESG itself. There are a lot of these investors. Who are investing in the market based on the concept of ESG itself. Environment, social and governance. ESG is a very important parameter now. And green bonds are discussed generally under the concept of ESG itself. Okay. Now, apart from the government, any other organization can issue sovereign green bond. My dear, when you say sovereign, it is associated with the government. When you use the term sovereign, it is associated with the government. So by default, these are issued by the government. Can private sector issue the green bond? Of course, yes. But these are called as simply green bonds. These are simply referred to as green bonds. Can municipalities issue green bonds? For example, I hope you have read about this. Indore municipality has very recently issued a green bond. I'll come to that later, don't worry. That's also a specialty, right? So municipalities are allowed to issue, states are allowed to issue, right? Center is allowed to issue, right? But sovereign generally is associated when issuance is done by the government. Okay. Is CCB part of the CAR or both same or different? CCB is different, please understand. capital adequacy ratio as per the Basal guidelines is 8%. I'll repeat it. As per the Basal guidelines, it is 8%. RBI in case of India has not kept it at 8, has actually increased it to 9%. Right? So again, next point is also important. Think of this and let me know. How many of you think that capital adequacy norms should be uniform for all the banks in India? Think of it and let me know. Right? Let me check how much you understand, how much you apply your common knowledge. How many of you believe that capital adequacy ratio norms should be same for every bank in India? Of course, no, it doesn't make sense. I hope you understand, it doesn't make sense. Scheduled commercial banks, it is 9%. For payment banks, it is 15%. Right? For the public sector banks, it is 12%. So from one type of a bank to another type of a bank, capital requirements will keep on changing. Okay? Is there capital gains tax on SGB? Right now, no tax benefits have been announced on SGB. Right now, no tax benefits have been announced on SGB. And when you write SGB, please be very careful. For sovereign green bonds, we do not use the acronym in the form of SGB. No, we do not use it. Why? Already there is one more type of a bond. Already there is one more type of bond whose acronym is SGB. That is sovereign gold bond. That is a sovereign gold bond. In the context of sovereign gold bond, we use the acronym SGB. In case of sovereign green bond, I have not come across any author using acronym of SGB for sovereign green bond. Why? It becomes a confusion. It creates confusion. Okay. Okay. Done? Shall I go to the next then? Let me go to the next one. Question number 35. Consider the following regarding 81 bond. Very, very important. So many current affairs concepts related to this. Right? Consider the following regarding 81. These offer a higher coupon rate compared to government bonds. First one is correct. I'll prove it. And you will only tell me, yes sir, it is correct. Second, capital raised under this is counted as a part of CET1, Common Equity Tier 1. Statement 2 is wrong. Now, what is this idea? Let's start here. Under Basal guidelines, I'm focused on 3. But in fact, please remember this also. If I give you a statement, right, think of it and let me know in the comment section now. If I give you a statement like this, capital adequacy ratio for the first time was introduced under Basal 3. How many of you say this is correct? I'll repeat the statement again for your benefit. Capital adequacy ratio for the first time ever was introduced under Basal 3 guidelines. No, it is not correct. Starting from Basal 1 itself, we have been having capital adequacy ratio. Now under Basal 3, there is a concept of capital adequacy ratio or credit to risk weighted assets ratio, CAR or CRAR. Now what happens under capital adequacy ratio is, you are supposed to maintain certain amount of capital in the form of Tier 1 capital. Capital is nothing but, again, a simplified version of it, money. Right? You are supposed to hold certain amount of money in the form of Tier 1 capital and also certain amount of money in the form of Tier 2 capital. Now, I will try to simplify this. These are very, very technical, but let me simplify this. Imagine you are a bank. Follow this carefully. Imagine you are a bank. You will collect money in the form of Tier 1 capital. You will also collect money in the form of Tier 2 capital. And in both the cases, you have the option of not returning the money. I will repeat it, very, very important. In both the cases, that is whether you have collected money through Tier 1 or Tier 2, you have an option of not returning the money. Not returning the money in the simple sense, you have borrowed money, you don't have to return it back. Right? That is point number 1. Point number 2, and after this I will ask a question, you will have to answer. Point 2 is, Tier 1 capital, when you take the money, you will not guarantee when you will return, if at all. If at all, you give it back, there is no time period for it. You can give it after 5 years. You can give it after 10 years. It is your decision. It's entirely your decision. But on the other side, tier 2 capital, you will collect money. But before you collect the money, you will tell the issuer, you will tell the investor, you will tell the one who is investing or giving money to you, you will return the money, let's say after 5 years, after 3 years, after 5 years, etc. A simple question to you people. If you are a bank, you want to use this money to absorb a loss, on which type of capital you will rely more? Think of this. Right, on one side, I'll repeat the statement here again. Think of it and let me know in the comment section. Tier 1 capital you have collected, but you will decide when you will give it back. Tier 2 capital you have collected, but you have already told, before collecting only, you have already told when you will return the money to the investor. So as a bank, you should be more dependent on tier 1 or tier 2. Right answer is tier 1. Please remember this. Right answer is always a tier 1. Why? Tier 1 capital is returned after tier 2 capital, my dear. I hope you understand this. Tier 1 capital, it will be returned after tier 2 capital. In tier 2 capital, you already have told the investor when you will return it back. In tier 1 capital, you will decide when you will return it back. And in both the cases, you can simply say, I will not return it. In both the cases, you can simply say, I will not return it. Can I give you a current affairs example? Yes Bank. This is exactly what has happened, right, in Yes Bank. Right? That is a precise reason all this is very important. Tier 1 capital, simply remember this now. Tier 1 capital has more capacity to absorb losses compared to tier 2. And that is the precise reason whenever you see a breakup of capital, again you don't by heart it. You will see that there is more of a tier 1 capital collected by the bank compared to tier 2 capital. The banks collect more and more in the form of tier 1 compared to tier 2. More reliable, more capacity to absorb losses. That is tier 1 capital feature for you. Now, there are different ways through which the banks can collect tier 1 capital. One is by issuing shares. One is by issuing shares, and that is a common equity tier 1. Shares means what? Equity. I hope all of you know this. Shares is nothing but equity. So one way is issue shares and collect money. That is a common equity tier 1 capital. And second one, right, second form is simply additional tier. Simply is additional tier 1 bond. Right, apart from this, there are many other tools also, but don't worry. This is much more than what is actually required for UPSC. So all you need to understand is Basal. Under that, capital adequacy ratio. Under that, there is a tier 1, tier 2. Again, technical names are there: core capital, subordinate capital, right, contingent liabilities, etc., etc. All these are very technical. Very technical. Right, come to this. Tier 1 capital, two very important ways. Common equity tier 1 and additional tier 1 bond. And this, in short, very famously is referred to as AT1 bond. In short, very famously is referred to as AT1 bond, additional tier 1 bond. Now let me go back. Consider the following regarding AT1 bond. These offer higher coupon rate compared to government bonds. Now you tell me, I am issuing an additional tier 1 bond which doesn't have any maturity, and there is a risk that I will not return the money to you. Will you demand a lower coupon rate or a higher coupon rate? You tell me now. Right, I can simply say I will not return the money to you. I will not pay the coupon to you. Best example, Yes Bank. Now you tell me, will you demand a lower coupon rate or a higher coupon rate? You will demand a higher coupon rate. Some of you are saying lower coupon rate. Those who are saying lower coupon rate, this is my sincere advice to you people. Do not invest in the market. Do not invest in the market. Why? You don't know how to, right, operate in the market. If you are giving 100 rupees to me, you are taking a higher risk. Why? I will simply not return the money to you. One. And second, I will decide when I will return the money to you. Are you not taking a higher risk? If the risk is higher, returns should be higher. Right? Very simple. Right? So these offer a higher coupon rate compared to government securities. Of course, as they should offer a higher coupon rate. Right? First one is correct. The capital raised under this is counted as a part of CET1. No, just now we have discussed this. CET1 separate, equity, and additional tier 1 bonds are bonds, debt instruments. So second one is wrong, first one is correct. Right option for this question number 35 will be option A. Option A is the right one. Okay. Question number 36 now, very important tool. Consider the following statements regarding standing deposit facility. SDF, standing deposit facility. Now what is this idea of a standing deposit facility? Let me explain. Right, follow this very carefully. Until very recently, RBI used two very important tools under the concept of liquidity adjustment facility. I repeat, RBI used two very important tools under the concept of liquidity adjustment facility. That is, one was repo, second one was reverse repo. One was repo, second one was reverse repo. What was the basic idea? Repo, you can borrow, that is, you means bank. Bank can borrow from RBI, right, and provide certain collateral, and there would be an agreement. Repo is nothing but an agreement. You will borrow for 1 day, you will borrow for, let's say, 14 days, etc. And in reverse repo, bank will give this extra deposit to RBI. RBI will provide the G securities collaterals to the bank, either for 1 day, 14 days, 7 days, etc. So repo, reverse repo. But please make a note of this. Very important feature of repo and reverse repo is collaterals are there. Collateral is there. Concept of collateral is present in both case of repo and reverse repo. Point number one. Point number one. Point number two. Let me ask a very simple question. If you are a bank, today can you run to RBI, borrow under the repo route? Think of it. Today you are a bank, can you run to RBI today and borrow from RBI? No. Right? Under the repo route? No. Some of you are saying yes. No, my dear. RBI has to tell you when you are allowed to borrow. RBI has to announce it. That is very important. Please remember this. RBI will announce when you are allowed to borrow under the repo route. It's not open throughout the year. That facility is not there to you throughout the year. Please remember this. Right? So have a look at this. Second statement, the discretion. Can I call it as a discretion now? Discretion of when repo will be conducted, when reverse repo will be conducted, was there with Reserve Bank of India. Was always with Reserve Bank of India. You might go to RBI, you want to borrow, but RBI says, sorry, repo is not open now. The tool of repo, the facility is not available now. Don't come today, come after 4 days when I will announce it. So discretion is there with RBI. Now, looking at both these conditions, a new tool has been introduced, that is a standing deposit facility. And whenever you come across the term standing, please remember this. Whenever you come across the term standing, it simply means facility is available throughout the year. I'll give you one more example, automatically you will tell me. Whenever you come across the term standing, it simply means the facility is available throughout the year. RBI doesn't have to call you now. RBI doesn't have to announce. Now, when it is available throughout the year, you tell me whether the discretion is there with the bank or not. Can the bank decide when they want to use the tool or not? Of course, yes. Right? So please remember, in STF, the discretion will be there with the banks now. The discretion which was earlier there with RBI, now will be there with the banking sector. Banks can decide when they want to use STF. Point number one. Point number two, collateral. Collateral means in case of reverse repo, imagine you have 100 crore rupees. You will go to RBI, you want to keep it under the reverse repo. And RBI has to give you securities now. But what if RBI doesn't have sufficient securities? Let me know. Right, you have 100 crores, you want to keep it with RBI. RBI doesn't have sufficient securities. Don't you think reverse repo rate will fail there? Reverse repo is not effective in that case. So what will happen? Right, that is the reason why RBI says in case of standing deposit facility, I repeat, in case of standing deposit facility, collaterals will not be given by RBI. Simple. Collaterals will not be given by RBI. So under the STF, banks can borrow from RBI, keep a deposit, borrow from RBI, and the RBI will not provide any kind of collateral to the banks now. That's the second very important feature. Now tell me third one, right? Think of it and let me know. If you are a bank, under reverse repo, RBI provided collateral, but now RBI is not providing collateral. Will the rate of interest be higher than repo or lower than repo? I'm sorry, will the rate of interest be, I'm correcting the question now. Will the rate of interest be higher than reverse repo or lower than reverse repo? Think of it and let me know. Right? Don't worry about repo. Focus on reverse repo. I've corrected my question. Will the rate of interest on SDF, will it be higher than reverse repo or lower than reverse repo? Higher than reverse repo. Right? Higher than reverse repo. Higher. Please understand. It will be higher than reverse repo. You check, you will realize. Right? And moreover, with introduction of SDF, reverse repo has become useless now. I'll repeat the statement. Right? With introduction of SDF, reverse repo rate has become useless. It has become useless now. Why? If you are a bank, you are getting a higher interest rate under SDF, why will you keep your deposits with RBI under the reverse repo? You will not do that. Right? That's the reason SDF is the most important tool in order to reduce the liquidity, and repo is the most important tool in order to increase the liquidity. Is it okay? Right? Repo is the tool in order to increase liquidity. SDF is the tool used by RBI to suck out liquidity from the market now. And that's the reason we'll simply say SDF is the lowest. Right? Have a look at this. It is the floor of the liquidity adjustment facility. That is, it is at this rate where RBI will suck out the liquidity from the market. Right? So this will be the floor of liquidity adjustment facility. Second statement is correct. Under this, the discretion of its usage is with the banking sector. First statement is also correct. Both are correct. 1 and 2 are correct. So the right option for the question number 36 will be option C. Both are correct. Now next very important point. You are giving a new tool to Reserve Bank of India. Right? Government of India is asking RBI to introduce a new tool, SDF. For this, government has amended RBI Act of 1934. I'll repeat it. For introducing the SDF, Government of India has amended RBI Act of 1934. Please remember this. Why? Whenever RBI has to introduce these kind of new tools, it's basically function of RBI. And the function of RBI comes from which act? The powers for the RBI will come from which act? RBI Act of 1934. RBI Act of 1934. That is from where you will get, right, the powers of RBI. Investments are done by RBI. The appointment of RBI governor, etc., etc. RBI governor is not a constitutional position, by the way. I hope you know that. Right? RBI governor is not a constitutional provision. It is as per the RBI Act of 1934. Even the Monetary Policy Committee, the idea of inflation targeting was introduced after amending the RBI Act of 1934. Done? Right? So please be very careful. Question number 36, right option is option C, both 1 and 2. Now let me go to question number 37. How many of the following regarding e-rupee retail is or are correct? E-rupee retail. Please understand. What is e-rupee? Concept of e-rupee. It is a central board digital currency. A central bank, not board, central bank digital currency. In short, this is called as CBDC. Central bank digital currency. Now, India is not the first country to actually introduce the concept. Okay, right? It is not the first country to introduce the concept of CBDC. Many countries are discussing. Many countries already have introduced the concept of CBDC. In case of India, we have introduced two forms of CBDC. One is called as a retail CBDC and the second one is wholesale CBDC. Retail e-rupee and the second one is wholesale e-rupee. Now what is this idea of a e-rupee? In a nutshell, if you want to write a statement, right, defining what is a e-rupee, it's nothing but digital version of rupee. That's it. It's a digital version of the money that you are having. For example, open up your purse, right? It should be there right in front of you somewhere, right, left or right. You will have 100 rupee note. You will have 200 rupee note. You will have 500 rupee note, right? Or you had a 500 rupee note. Now, right, a new version of 500 is there. 1000 rupee note, of course no. 2000 rupee note. So argument is simple here. Rather than printing the currency and giving it to you, simple, fiat money. I hope you understand. I'm talking about fiat money here. Rather than printing the currency and giving it to you, the digital version of it will be given to you. The digital money will be given to you. That is e-rupee in simple terms. That is central bank digital currency. So we have introduced the two concepts. One is a retail e-rupee and the second one is wholesale e-rupee. Retail is used by us, right, and wholesale is used by financial institutions. For example, sir, where wholesale, right, e-rupee is used. For example, imagine I'm a bank, you are one more bank. Okay, you are one more bank, I'm the second bank. You will sell government securities to me. Now I can make a payment to you in the form of wholesale e-rupee itself. That is, the digital rupee can be used to make payment. Now that is second point. Third very important point. RBI says e-rupee is nothing but a legal tender. I hope you understand this. E-rupee, it is nothing but a legal tender. Legal tender means it is issued by a central banker, can be used for purchasing and selling of the goods or services in the market. Of course, many of you will tell me, but sir, I don't have e-rupee now, or I have e-rupee, I try to sell to somebody else, they are not accepting it, etc. Why is that happening right now in case of India? Right now we are running a pilot basis. We are simply trying it on pilot basis, right? The RBI has identified certain institutions. RBI has identified certain investors, or let's say retail people, and the facility of wallet has been given to only those people, right? Some of the traders have been identified, some of the banks have been identified, only they are allowed to use the e-rupee as of now. And that is a precise reason, even if you have e-rupee, you cannot use it in the market to purchase anything and everything in the market as of now. Why? It is being run on pilot basis. It is not on a full-fledged basis. It is being run on a pilot basis. RBI wants to try it first. Then if it works out very well, which is not happening right now, right? It is not functioning very well. I'll tell you why. Right, even the traders are not willing to accept, are not inclined to accept it. Why? The simple reason is, I'm pretty sure all of you will accept or will agree with me when I say that we are accustomed, we have got used to the idea of a UPI. I hope you understand my statement here. Right, you, me and crores of people, crores of traders, etc. All of us, thanks to the pandemic, we have gotten used to the idea of a UPI. And if you ask me, sir, is UPI a legal tender? My dear, UPI is a payment system. UPI is not money. I hope you understand my point here. UPI is not money, right? E-rupee is a money. Cash is a money. Money in your bank account is money. UPI is not money. It is a payment system. Now, we are so much accustomed to usage of UPI. Right now, RBI wants us to use one more, right, concept of a rupee payment system. We will not accept it easily. I hope you understand. Right, we will not accept it easily. That's the reason adoption of the retail as well as digital rupee has become very, very slow. Even RBI very recently discussed this. RBI is concerned that adoption is very, very slow. Now, as a customer, I'm used to UPI. As a trader, imagine there is a seller. You want to purchase certain goods. The seller is also not used to the idea of a CBDC. They don't want to accept CBDC. Why? The seller will have to have one more QR code. I hope you understand how e-rupee is transacted. Simple. All of you know the concept of a phone pay wallet? Let me know. Paytm wallet, phone pay wallet, etc. In the same way, there is a wallet to keep digital rupee. Simple. I hope you understand my point here. Just like you keep money in your phone pay wallet or Paytm wallet, in the same way, for storing e-rupee, it's a digital money, right? So there is a wallet. Now you want to accept e-rupee. You are a trader, or let's say you want to make a payment. The trader, they want to accept e-rupee. There should be a mechanism of payment. How can you do that? Scan QR code. For that, trader is supposed to have one more QR code. Now you tell me you have been to multiple shops in the very recent time. In the last 1 week, you must have visited, let's say, around 10 shops. Which shop doesn't have a QR code? I hope you understand my point here. Almost all the shops have multiple QR codes. Some will have Paytm, some will have phone pay, right? Some will have this, etc., etc. So already the shopkeepers or the traders saying that we already have 2 QR codes. We already have 1 QR code. Why should I have 1 more QR code? Right? That is for acceptance of e-rupee. That's the reason adoption of e-rupee either in the wholesale or in the retail has become very, very slow. But anyways, the amount kept in the wallet would not be earning any interest. You tell me, if you keep money in the wallet, either it is a phone pay or let's say, right, Paytm, just like e-rupee, will you earn interest on it? If you keep 10,000 rupees in your phone pay wallet or a Paytm wallet, will you get interest on it? No, you do not get interest on it. Please remember, you do not earn any interest on it, right? Try to keep, let's say, 10,000 rupees in your phone pay wallet and see how much you will get in the form of interest after 3 months. You will not get anything. E-rupee is a fungible legal tender. What do you mean by fungible? Fungible means it can be used to purchase goods and services. Fungible means convertible. For example, you have cash of 500 rupees. Is it a fungible legal tender? Think of it. You have 500 rupees cash. Can you convert this cash into goods or services? Right? Convert means what? Don't imagine literally you will take 500 rupee, dip it in water, convert it to something. No. Can you exchange it? Of course, yes. That is called as a fungibility. That is one of the features of money, fungibility. E-rupee is a fungible legal tender, yes, as the proposal of RBI. Again, don't say right now, sir, it is wrong, etc., etc. It's a pilot basis. It is a pilot basis. Once it is applicable throughout India, it will become fungible legal tender. It will be a bearer instrument just like banknotes. Just like banknotes, it's a bearer instrument. Bearer instrument means anybody who is holding it is the owner. Statement 3 is also correct. So 2 and 3 is correct. Right option for this will be only 2. Correct? Statement 1 is correct. The amount kept in the wallet would not be earning any interest. As far as I know, they will not give you any interest. But let me check it. Let me check it. Don't worry. Don't worry. Right. So question number 37. As of now, it is option B. If it is changing, I'll let you know tomorrow. Please don't worry. Question number 38. Consider, okay, let me make a correction here. Here itself, I'll make a correction. Statement 1 is correct. I'll tell you why. I just got confused. It is correct. Why? E-rupee is just like cash. E-rupee is just like cash. When you keep it in the bank, you will get the interest. Correct, correct. Okay. But anyways, I will discuss this again. The first point, I'll discuss it again. Don't worry. I'll discuss this again tomorrow. Okay. Question number 38. Consider the following statements regarding NRE accounts. Very recently, NRE accounts was there in the newspaper. I'll tell you the reason. There was an issue regarding current account deficit in the last year. I'll repeat it. There was an issue regarding current account deficit in the last year. What is the issue? The issue was that the forex was depleting. Forex was actually depleting. Therein foreign exchange reserves were actually depleting. Point number 1. And point number 2. Point number 2 is what happened at this particular point of time was the trade deficit was widening. Right? The trade deficit was widening. Forex reserves were depleting. Right? Etc. At this point of time, in order to address the issue of current account deficit, and depleting forex reserves, RBI implemented multiple measures. RBI implemented multiple measures such as, all of you heard of external commercial borrowings? ECB, external, right, commercial borrowings. Under external commercial borrowings, generally, until very recently, $750 million were allowed to be borrowed. I'll repeat it. Under external commercial borrowing, until very recently, $750 million were allowed to be borrowed. But RBI looking at the situation that dollars are flowing out, there is a concern of twin deficits, trade deficit is widening, forex reserves are depleting, etc., etc. Right? They doubled this from $750 million to $1.5 billion. I'll repeat the statement here. They doubled this from $750 million to $1.5 billion, so that they will be bringing in more and more money into India. This is one such measure. Second such measure was FCNR and NRE accounts. FCNR and NRE accounts. If a bank will collect any money under the FCNR and NRE accounts, the incremental amount collected, the bank doesn't have to maintain any CRR on this. I will repeat it. Right? FCNR and NRE, any incremental means any additional money they will collect now, deposits they will collect now, they will not have to satisfy the CRR requirements for this. Now, what is the importance of this? What is the connection of this to the question here, etc.? Let me explain this. Focus on the NRE accounts here. Focus on NRE accounts. In case of NRE accounts, the foreign investors, I'm talking about residents, non-resident Indians, PIOs, non-resident Indians, etc. These non-resident Indians, they are allowed to bring money into India, invest in Indian bank deposits. Simple. These NREs, non-resident Indians or PIOs, they are allowed to bring money into India, invest in these deposits. Right? They are allowed to invest in these accounts as such. And please understand this. If a bank which collects deposits, a bank which will collect a deposit like this, if they have to maintain a CRR, if they have to keep certain amount of money in the form of CRR, obviously some of the money is not useful for the bank in order to earn interest. Is the logic okay? Let me know. CRR, right? There's a problem with CRR. What is the problem? The bank has collected, let's say 100 rupee. I'm taking number of 100. And out of that, let's say 10 rupee has to be kept with RBI in the form of CRR. It simply means that 10 rupee is of no use for the bank to earn interest. Now have a look at this. Have a look at this. If this bank is told by RBI now, RBI tells the bank, don't worry about it. Don't worry. You collect the deposit. Don't keep CRR. Don't keep CRR. What is the implication of it? It simply means bank now can use all the 100 rupees. Bank can use the full 100 rupees for lending purposes. Right? So the argument is simple here. The foreign investor, that is non-resident Indians, will keep deposits in rupees in these accounts. And now whatever extra amount is kept during this period, the bank doesn't have to meet any CRR on this, which means bank can utilize the full amount for their purposes, which means the bank can also offer higher interest rate on these deposits. Let me know. The bank can also offer higher interest rate for these deposits. Possible or not? Is the logic okay? Because until now, if you take 10 rupees, the bank used to have only 90 rupees. Now that 10 rupee will not be kept with RBI. All 100 rupees is there with the bank. Can the bank offer more rate of interest to these deposits? Of course, yes. It is possible. Right? That is the reason the CRR regulations on these deposits were relaxed by RBI. Right? So that the banks will offer more rate of interest. It will attract more and more deposits from these non-resident Indians into these accounts. And please understand this. when these non-resident Indians will bring money into India, it is as good as saying dollars are flowing into India. I hope you understand this. Right? When these NRIs will bring money into India, it is as good as saying dollars is coming into India. And one of the concern with RBI was what? Forex reserves are depleting. Right? Done? Now come back to the statements here. The amount under this is completely repatriable. Repatriable simply means what? Are you allowed to take out the complete amount of money or not? If you have invested in India, are you allowed to take out the complete investment out of India again? Are you allowed to take it back to your own country? Answer is yes. Repatriation means you are allowed to take the money out again. Right? So, are these deposits completely repatriable? Of course, yes. FCNRB, completely repatriable. NRE, completely repatriable. The holders or investors will face exchange rate risk. Of course, yes. I told you, you will bring dollars, but these are kept in the form of rupees in the deposits. These are kept in the form of rupees. So now tell me, will you face exchange rate risk or not? Of course, yes. Right? That is, let's say, when you bring the dollars into India, let's say, imagine you are the foreign investor, you are the US, you are sitting in USA, you are a NRI, you are sitting in USA, you will bring, let's say, right, $10 million, keep it in these particular deposits. Now, when you brought it, the exchange rate was $1 is equal to 60 rupees, which means for every 1 rupee, it was 60 rupees that you kept in the bank account. Now, when you're repatriating it, when you're taking it out of India, exchange rate is $1 is equal to, let's say, 70 rupees. Or exchange rate is $1 is equal to 50 rupees. In one case, you will be affected by it. In another case, you will get the benefit out of it. But are you taking a risk or not? Are you facing the exchange rate risk or not? Answer is simply yes. Right, so first is correct, second one is correct. Right, the right option for the question number 38 will be option C, both 1 and 2. Okay. Now question number 39. Consider the following regarding RRBs. Now what is the reason? Why should you read about RRBs? RRB, by the way, is a Regional Rural Bank. Regional Rural Bank, RRB. Now what is the concept of a Regional Rural Bank? Please understand this. In 1975, there was a committee, Narsimham Committee. And this Narsimham Committee, right, looked at it and said that there is a problem regarding liquidity, that is banking sector lending activity in the rural market. We are not talking about urban market here. We are talking about rural market. So in the context of the rural market, what this committee recommended was we should have financial institutions which will focus on lending to a narrower base. That is, we do not want public sector banks like institutions which will keep on spreading throughout India, forget about rural part. And that is the precise reason Government of India introduced the concept of Regional Rural Bank, RRB, Regional Rural Bank. And what is the specialty about regional rural banks? They will not spread, or their branches will not spread beyond certain number of districts. They will target 1 or 2 districts, and even if they target 2 districts, both of the districts should be touching each other, that is contiguous districts. So the argument was simple: target rural part, target farmers, target businesses in rural India, etc., etc. That was the reason, right, with which we introduced the concept of RRB post 1975 in India. And in order to ensure that they will meet all of it, the priority sector lending target for the RRB is 75%. Remember this. The priority sector lending for RRB is 75%. Now look at the statement 1 here. Just like any other commercial bank, they must maintain PSL of 40%. No, it is 75%. Just like any other PSBs, they must maintain the CRAR of 12%. No, it is 9%. It is 9%. Both the statements are wrong. But the reason, so this is a factual question. Yes. But what is the reason why I have picked up the concept of RRB now? 2 reasons. Government of India periodically has been right, introducing or infusing capital into RRBs. I'll repeat it. Government has been infusing capital into RRBs. Government has been keeping or giving lot of capital. Why? Regional rural banks post 1975, the branching of RRBs, the number or let's say the operation of RRBs widened like this. The number of RRBs were very high. The branches that they opened up also increased. But when you keep on opening more and more branches, the cost of operations will also increase. In addition to that, some of the loans started becoming NPA. The pandemic hit them, but right, just to be very fair here, just to be very correct, even before the pandemic, there has been issue in the functioning of RRBs. And that is the precise reason post 2000, Government of India has been consolidating the number of RRBs by merging these RRBs. Number of RRBs over a period of time has actually come down in case of India. Right, so argument was simple. The government has been infusing a lot of capital into RRBs. That is one reason why this was there in the newspaper. Second reason why RRBs were there in the newspaper. Now Government of India says, why don't we allow the RRBs to get listed in the market? This is a new proposal now. Why don't we allow the RRBs, regional rural banks, to get listed in the stock market? That is a proposal which has been put forward, again yet to be done. It is just a proposal. What is the objective here? If they get listed in the stock market, automatically the RRBs now will be able to raise more and more capital from the market, not depending only upon the government. Right? That is basically the reason why regional rural banks were there in the newspaper very, very recently. Now, question number 39, both the statements are wrong. Right option for the question will be option D, neither 1 nor 2. Done? Right, so, right, this is question number 39. Question number 40. Consider the following regarding GST Council. Consider the following regarding GST Council. Statement 1, it is a constitutional body. Yes or no? Yes, it's a constitutional body. Article 279A. Article 279A, it's a constitutional body. Statement 2, the recommendations of the council are binding on the government. This is the reason why I have put this in the question now. This is the prime reason. The recommendations of the GST council are binding on the government. Statement is wrong. There has been very recently a Supreme Court judgment. Please remember that. Supreme Court of India says these are advisories in nature. Simple, these are advisories in nature. These are not binding on the government, neither on the state government nor on the central government. Because the Supreme Court says this will be like contravening into the functions, the constitutional powers which have been given to the state government as well as the central government by the Constitution of India. So the recommendations of the GST Council are not binding on the government. Second one is wrong. Third, the chairperson of the council is the Prime Minister. Most of you feel this should be right, but no. The chairperson of the GST Council, it is basically the Finance Minister. Chairperson is the Finance Minister. Chairperson is the Finance Minister. Now let me ask you a very simple question. Is there a position of vice chairperson in the GST Council? I'll repeat it. Is there a position of vice chairperson in the GST Council? Vice chairperson. Yes, there is a position. Some of you are saying no, there is a position. But it's a different matter of fact that there is no vice chairperson in the council. There's a position. Right? Can there be appointment of a vice chairperson? Of course, yes. You don't have to amend the constitution for that. Yes, it is possible. That position is there. But has anybody been elected in the GST Council to become a vice chairperson? No. Nobody so far has been elected. And that elected person should be from the states. That is, from the states, somebody has to be elected as a vice chairperson. Nobody has been elected so far. Please remember that. Okay. So GST Council, Finance Minister is the chairperson. There is no vice chairperson as of now because nobody has been elected. Done. So first one is correct. 2 and 3 are wrong. right option, because you're supposed to find which one is correct, the right option will be option A. Only one is correct. Okay. Now, okay, so time's up. If you have any kind of questions, let me know. Any questions, let me know, right? So 40 questions are over. We'll pick up from question number 41 tomorrow. Don't worry, we'll pick it up from tomorrow. But before taking up your questions, yesterday or even today also, I was going through the comments that you people have given. First and foremost, right, those who have answered very well, congratulations. Many of you have commented, sir, I was able to solve 20 out of 23. I was able to solve 15, etc. Good. But some of the comments were very interesting. Some of you basically said, right, I was going through the comment and one student said, sir, you discussed the concept of a PPP, purchasing power parity. And you said, it's a real GDP. Please check it. I did not say PPP is a real GDP. I said, comparison of economies. I'll repeat the statement. Comparison of economies is done in two ways. One, nominal exchange rate. Second one is real exchange rate, right? Real exchange rate basically is a PPP, right? I did not say real GDP. I said comparison of GDP is done in two ways. One is a nominal exchange rate. Second one is real exchange rate. When you talk about real exchange rate, if the real exchange rate is equal to 1, in fact, I told you the same thing yesterday also. Real exchange rate is equal to 1 means currencies are at purchasing power, right? Purchasing power parity. And that's the reason I said, right, when you talk about GDP, compare them in real exchange terms, India's ranking is the third largest. Is it okay? Right? So nominal, right, fifth largest now, and real, it is the third largest. And there is one more interesting comment. Some of the students said, sir, when you talk about petrol, you said if the price of the petrol goes up, right, the demand should come down. But you said in the discussion that, right, the price of the petrol goes up and, right, the price elasticity of demand is less than 1. And you said it is an essential commodity. You are wrong, they said. Please understand, whenever you talk about essential commodity, I hope you understand, whenever you talk about essential commodity, prices can change. Prices can go down, prices can go up. But the demand will not change by much. For example, again I'll reiterate the same best example, by the way, salt. How many of you believe that, right, when the salt prices will go down, you'll consume more salt? Think of it and let me know. If the salt prices will go down, will you purchase more salt? No. If the salt prices goes up, will you reduce the salt consumption? No. Right? Hardly any change in the demand for the salt. And that is a precise reason. That's a precise reason. Whether the commodity is an essential commodity or a non-essential commodity, that will determine whether the demand is elastic or inelastic. For essential commodities, the demand remains almost, right, very nearer to inelasticity. Right? The demand will remain inelastic. For luxury products, the demand will become elastic. Done? Okay. Right. So now let me have a look at your questions. Can RBI borrow under the provisions of SDF or it lends only? Under SDF, RBI will collect deposits. That is, RBI will borrow. Under repo, RBI will lend. Under the bank rate, RBI will lend. What is a leverage ratio? Right? In what context are you talking? Are you talking about in the context of a company? Are you talking about anything else, etc.? Because if you take a company, leverage ratio, basically it's a comparison between how much is the debt, how much is the equity. How much is the debt, how much is the equity. Core banking solutions or core banking services. Core banking services, CBS in short. The beauty of the core banking services is it will connect the banks together. It will simply connect the banks together. For example, imagine you had a bank account, let's say 20 years ago. Right? Imagine you had a bank account in a branch. Now you go to one more branch. Again, I'm talking about 20 years ago situation. You have a bank account in one branch. Imagine you will go to one more city. You want to conduct a banking transaction in the same bank, but a different branch. They would not allow. Why? There is no connection, there is no information in the second branch as to how much money you have in your bank account. But now what has happened, we have introduced a concept of core banking solutions where all the banks are connected, where the banks will get connected like this, right? That is the precise reason. Whether you have a bank account in branch 1, branch 2, branch 3, doesn't matter. You can conduct your banking transactions anywhere, right? I hope you understand. That's the reason they will simply say the core banking solutions has converted the customer of a branch to customer of a bank. I will repeat it again. What is the importance of a core banking solution? It has converted the customer who is a customer of a branch to customer of a bank. Throughout the bank, any branch, right? SBI, any branch, you can conduct transactions now. Okay? Concurrency of taxation. We'll take it up tomorrow. I have not started this. Okay. Okay, let's stop the discussion then. Okay, let's stop the discussion today. We'll continue with the question number 41 tomorrow. Right, take care. But before that, before I wind up the session, one more reminder. Last time the reminder to all of you. Do not forget to subscribe BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS YouTube channel. Hit the like button, right, and give your valuable comments in the section below. And whatever PDF I'm using here, whatever questions I'm using here, the PDF of that is available in the description below. Download it. Right. So thanks a lot. Have a great day. Good night. See you tomorrow again sharp at 7:30 p.m. Take care.